football game yesterday, the matinee matchup on Sunday between the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs defensively prevailed to a 19-9 victory over the number one rated offense in the NFL and the Dallas Cowboys. And now the Chiefs all of a sudden have won 4 straight games. They're 7-4 overall. And this was a big game for the Kansas City Chiefs because not only was this against an elite team in the NFC, and I'll touch on how this connects to the Dallas Cowboys in just a minute, but this was a marquee victory for a team that really hadn't established itself fully and hadn't really collected a marquee win all year. When we think about the Kansas City Chiefs, the wins that they've accrued over the season, they didn't really have a marquee win. They didn't have a win that they could say, okay, this is why we believe we can vault forward into the elite status, especially amongst the NFL best teams. But yesterday was a perfect example of why the Kansas City Chiefs are so relevant, why they're 100% back in the fold, is because now they're starting to reestablish their identity. Patrick Mahomes is starting to regain that confidence, and he's finally looking like his old self. We saw against the Raiders, that was the first time in nearly a month where we felt like this offense was starting to click. Patrick Mahomes was starting to do Patrick Mahomes-like stuff, flinging the football around. Obviously had over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in that win. And the continuity between him and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and the offense was finally starting to flourish last week. And even yesterday, this is still a group that put up over 327 total yards of offense. Mahomes still had 260 passing yards. So this offense, though it didn't score as much as they did against the Raiders or as much as they have in previous games this year, they still put up 19 points. They still executed on a number of critical plays. And the reality is, you can see the confidence restored. And you can see this team returning to their old self in this win yesterday. The way that Patrick Mahomes is making throws, yes, he still missed a couple key targets, but the reality is this team is now once again returning to a level of play that had elevated them the past several years to that Super Bowl, to those Super Bowls, plural, as they reached 2 back-to-back years. They were playing a lot more intelligently. They executed in the fourth quarter. They had a much more strategic game plan in the fourth quarter with the lead. They were trusting the run. They were relying on the run game, which was something we didn't see. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 63 rushing yards and a touchdown. And Mahomes really only threw it occasionally on third downs just to move the chains. But they were smart. They were intelligent in the fourth quarter. And the defense is starting to peak at the right time. They're really starting to round into form. A defense that we've maligned and just scrutinized the entire season because they've just been so horrific, that if you look at this defense, what they've been able to do over the last 4 weeks, holding the Giants to 17 points, holding the Packers, albeit without Aaron Rodgers, to 7 points, holding the Raiders to 14 points last week, and then holding the number one offense in the Dallas Cowboys to 9 points, keeping them out of the end zone the entire night despite 5 trips to the red zone. Their defense is looking a lot stronger, a lot better. Chris Jones had 3.5 sacks. The Chiefs had 5 sacks yesterday. Entering yesterday's game, they only had 14 sacks as a team. And they had an interception late in the game. Chris Jones tipped the pass of Dak Prescott's last pass that resulted in the game-sealing interception. They had a forced fumble. They applied constant pressure. Steve Spagnuolo did a great job of calling up a lot of pressure, calling a lot of blitzes. We saw him do that now for the second straight week. He did that against the Raiders right from the opening possession. He did it against the Cowboys right from the opening possession. So the defense is rounding into shape. They're trusting their run game. Mahomes is finding and regaining that swagger and that confidence that we've been so accustomed to seeing. And the Chiefs are in a great spot right now because you look up at the standings, and despite everything that's been going on around them, and despite their slow start, they're 7-4, and they're only one game back of Tennessee, who just lost yesterday for the best record in the AFC. Now, from the Dallas Cowboys perspective, I'm not going to glean too much. I'm not going to extract too much from this game because it's hard to evaluate this team when you don't have Amari Cooper, who is under COVID protocols, late scratch. CeeDee Lamb missed the entire second half after a potential concussion scare on one of the final plays of the first half. He banged his head in the back of the end zone. So no Randy Gregory. So the offense was severely hamstrung. There's no question about that. But it obviously didn't help that they were without those guys. It also didn't help that some of their key players, Cedric Wilson and others, dropped a lot of key passes. And Dak Prescott wasn't great yesterday. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But he didn't get as much help from his wide receivers as he probably would have had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb been fully available for this game. CeeDee Lamb in this instance for the second half. But the defense for Dallas actually still looks great. Micah Parsons was wreaking havoc all over the field, 2 sacks. The guy has been an absolute menace up front for Dallas, and they still held the Chiefs to 19 points. They did a great job. So Dallas's defense is right where it should be, and the NFC East is still theirs to lose. So I'm not too concerned for the Dallas Cowboys after yesterday's game. I don't think that people are going to be making big proclamations about the Cowboys based off of that performance. It more has to do with what the Chiefs were doing and what they have been doing over the last month than what Dallas failed to do. And that's really the difference yesterday. Chiefs extending their win streak to 4. They played smart football. Defense excelled. Offense is beginning to flourish and rev up. And they're playing much more intelligently, trusting the run game, taking what the defense is giving to them. Big time, big time. First marquee win of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs.